Always open up an IRA anytime you want. Just always keep in mind, any of the money that you place into that IRA, you're going to have trouble getting back. Okay, so you want to be very careful. Okay, so back to an emergency fund. I had about 6 months ago, I had a leaky roof. Now, I've only owned my house for 5 years. And personally, I didn't really have that understanding of what was going on or what the expense was. So, I had just taken a nice vacation. I didn't really have a lot of money in my savings. I had just actually refinished my basement, thinking, because my basement had flooded as well. And I had to put $3,000 into my roof. Guess what? I didn't have any money really put away for that. So I had to tap into my general savings, which almost wiped me out, to fix my roof. So that's really why they say emergency fund. So leaky roofs, leaky basements, your car breaks down on the side of the road and your transmission goes. Does anybody else have any thoughts on what an emergency fund may be? Or why you might use an emergency fund? Okay, well let's actually then go to the next slide. I can turn a page too. So now we're going to talk about sources of income. This is where I want everyone to write down 5 sources of income. Okay? What do you believe? Where are you getting your money? What are the options of getting your money? And then I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to do that, and then I'm going to ask people to share what they believe are or is a source of income.
Does it have to necessarily be your own source of income?
It would be your income that you're receiving. So what if you were to receive income, say on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually income, what would it be from? So just think about that. Okay. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer who'd like to share some of their sources of income. Anybody share?
Hourly pay.
Hourly pay, so your hourly pay. Your inheritance, yes. I mean, that's important. That's something that not everybody gets, but that is absolutely a source of income. Some people get monthly distributions from an inheritance because it goes into a trust. Some people get, a big lump sum, but really, what are you going to do with that lump sum once you get it? Anybody else?
Under the table.
Under the table? Yeah, we like to say that that's a source of income, but you have to keep in mind it's not tax deductible, so you have to be very careful, especially when you're putting it in the bank. Okay? Absolutely. SSI. SSI is a big one. Any type of Social Security disability. Think about retirement. So you're going to be looking at your weekly, bi-weekly paycheck. You're going to be looking at Social Security. You're going to be looking at inheritance. But as you get older, you also have to take into consideration where that money is going to come from when you're not working anymore, right? So you have a pension. So you might get a monthly distribution from a pension or a 401k. You're going to have that IRA. That's another source of income, okay? That's as you hit those specific roadblocks, your retirement, Social Security, okay? You can't start really collecting that till you're 65. Okay, so you have to really kind of think of how you're saving. Yes. Investments as well. Yeah, so you're looking at any type of long-term investments like stocks, annuities, mutual funds. They are also sources of income. And sometimes they can be sources of income before you hit retirement age as well, depending on how successful you are on the market. Okay? So as we talk about sources of income, let's now kind of talk about what we're using income for. So when you're getting paid, what are you paying for? So does anybody want to read the list of uses for your income? Yes.
Income is used for housing, transportation, clothing, food, education, savings, emergency fund, retirement, and entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And this is where our next slide really truly does come into play. So if you look at the next slide, we're going to talk about pay yourself first. So what I want to ask everybody is, what does pay yourself first? What does that mean to you?
So
Yes.
put some money aside
For yourself. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If you look at the definition of pay yourself first, it's really the best way to achieve a personal savings goal, and it's really to set aside money before you pay any other bills or make any purchases. Okay? I mean, that to us is extremely important when we say pay yourself first, because if you don't pay yourself first, where are you going to be in the next few years? Okay? And let's then go ahead and we'll look at the next slide. The next slide, we're going to talk more about a dream job, but I'm going to actually kind of twist this around a little bit, and we're going to talk about a girl named Stephanie, okay? And we're going to be using this example later on as well. So Stephanie is a recent graduate of college, okay? So Stephanie also, her dream job, she wants to be a marketing coordinator, okay? So that was her dream job, and her annual salary when she started as a marketing coordinator was $29,000 a year, okay? So she was about almost $30,000 a year. That's great coming right out of college. Honestly, I think that's a really great salary for anybody in this day and age, especially just coming out of school or going back into the workforce. Okay? And Stephanie is really looking at a monthly salary of $2,450 a month. Okay? Now, I use that, I kind of take I take some information from another part of this presentation for this because I think it's more relevant. But if we go to the next slide, you can see we want to talk now about, after we really talk about your monthly expenses and your monthly salary, we want to look at your fixed expenses, okay? So fixed expenses, if you take a look here at this slide, the fixed expenses are the same amount each month, okay? So we look at that. If you see here some of the examples of a fixed expense, okay, is rent, car, your insurance, and your emergency savings fund. That should always be your fixed expense every single month, okay? Now, variable, if you take a look, variable varies based on the market or usage. So before we actually click the next button, I want to ask everybody, can anybody give me an example of a variable expense?
Your electric bill?
Utilities. Exactly. So if you want to click on that, we're looking at gas. So gas for your car, food. And why do we say that food is a variable expense? Because guess what? Your food bill, I know mine changes, I think, weekly. Depends on how often I go out to eat or order out and how often, I actually go to the grocery store and buy food. And then you take a look into the fact that if you're buying food, how much food are you wasting? How much food are you actually not eating that you're buying? Okay, you don't want to do that, obviously, but guess what? If you're eating out more than you're eating at home, you're going to be wasting food. Okay, we look at your utilities, and then we look at the all-important phone bill. I can tell you right now, I don't have a home phone, I have a cell phone. And I can tell you right now, my cell phone bill is expensive, but if I go over my minutes, then I'm really in trouble, right? We don't ever want to go over our minutes. And then we look at discretionary spending. So what is a discretionary spending? So that's your daily spending decisions. So can anybody give me an example of a discretionary spending? Entertainment. Absolutely. Shopping. Oh, I see you're laughing. I see you're looking at the examples on the PowerPoint. That's good. Yes.
Your clothing expense.
Yeah.
You don't always buy clothes.
No, that's a choice you make. When you think you need to buy something new, that's a choice, right? So if we click on that, it's your entertainments, it's your restaurants that we had spoken about. When you want to go on vacation, I think that's very important that we look at that, right? So if you want to go on vacation, we need to figure out how much money we're going to spend, why we're going to spend it, and that's truly why we go ahead and we create a budget. So we use those three fields. So we use your daily expenses, your monthly expenses, your savings goals, and we also look at unexpected expenses, okay? So when you're planning out your budget, you really have to take all of that into consideration, okay? So we're going to go to the next slide. So what I want to talk about now is where really does all your money go? So we're going to be looking at your income usually. If you take a look, once your income is higher than your expenses, you need to decide what goals you want to save for. Savings priorities fall in the three categories, which is short-term savings, mid-term savings, and then long-term savings. Now, I will say personally, I could tell you what the most important one here is for me. But what do you think the most important one is for you? Bingo. I think that's everybody's overall goal. You want to live comfortably, right? So when you're ready to retire, you want to be able to retire, and you want to be very comfortable when you're doing it, right? You don't want to have to give up some of your luxury, your luxury items because you can't afford them anymore, or your luxury expenses. But we also have to look at your short-term goals. So, are you going to go on vacation this year? Okay, how much money are you going to spend on vacation? Are you going to buy a new car? Do you need a new car? And if you are, how much money are you going to spend monthly? Okay, and then we have to look at your midterm. So, you know what? Maybe you're getting married. Okay, maybe you have kids who need to go to college. Are you helping them save for college? Is that something that you're looking to do for your children? Okay, those are very, very important things for everyone to really keep in mind when they're creating their budget. Now, maybe you're not necessarily looking to save for college for your kids, but guess what? Maybe you want to help them save for their wedding. Okay, that could be important, so you can help them with that joyous time in their life. If we can go to the next slide. So what we're going to look at here, we're going to look at actually two examples of where your money can go. So the first one, if you can take a look. So look at this. So we're looking at purchasing a car, right? So we're looking at the Honda Civic. So the Honda Civic here starts at $15,800. Okay, that's a starting price. So that just goes up. Okay, you want it. You want that navigation system, the heated seats, the push button start. That price is going to go up. Rates now on cars are not what they used to be. So you're looking at about a 6% rate, and that would be for a 5-year term. So look at that monthly payment. That's $305.46 out of that $2,450. You're going to be spending every month, right? So you now have to keep that in mind. So what are we doing here? We're taking that $2,450, right? And we're going down to about $2,100 a month. So now we have $2,100 a month. Okay? So if we go to the next one, we're going to talk about the all-important college education. Okay? So college, the average loan debt is $26,800. Okay? That's a new car. And that is just the average. There are people who spend $30,000, $40,000 for college debt. Okay? You're looking at a rate, the rates are lower because 90% of your college loans are through the government, and you're looking at a rate of 3.86%, and generally it's a 10-year term. So now we're taking that $2,100 and we're basically taking almost $300 more off, so $269.56. Okay? So that brings you down to about, $1,700 we're looking at? Okay? So now you have $1,700 for your monthly expenses. Okay? Which to me kind of helps you now gauge, these are payments I know I'm paying every single month. Okay? They're not really gonna change. So now this is where Stephanie really comes into play, okay? So right now what we're looking at is, with her monthly take-home pay, she's really responsible for her rent, her utilities, her food, and her other expenses. She's also paying off her student loans, and she does want to buy a house. So she's a young girl, wants to buy a house, wants to make sure her loans are paid off. She does own her car, but she likes to hang out with her friends on the weekend. Okay? So I think a lot of us can kind of relate to that, if not now, at least when we were younger or have kids who really do enjoy hanging out with their friends on the weekend and taking the car. Okay? So if we actually take the next slide, and this is where I want everybody to just really look at Stephanie's budget. Okay? And let's go through this budget together. So we're actually going to go through what she budgeted for, and then we'll talk about her actual budget. Okay? So if we look at her budget here, you're going to see her savings and retirement. Stephanie wants to put away $480 a month, and that's on top of a net income of $2,450, okay? So then we're going to talk about her rent. Her rent's $600 a month, okay? She's got her $200 worth of car insurance, her cable and her internet, which is $105. She's got her cell phone, which is $75, and her student loans, which is $247. Okay, so they're all her fixed expenses, right? Then we're going to go down and we're going to look at her variable expenses. So her variable expenses are gas, which is $80. It looks like for food she's saying is going to be $200 this month, and her utilities is $158. Okay? Now, even though you don't really know what's going to happen within a month's period of time, you still want to budget out for your discretionary expenses. So for your entertainment, which is $75, she included gifts here. So to her, that was very important. You know, maybe she had some birthdays this month, so she wanted to really just kind of put that into her budget, but she's saying she's only going to spend $20 for gifts, okay? And then we look at her shopping and clothing, and that's about $50. So she said, you know, maybe she needs a new shirt. She'll worry about that. She's only going to spend $50. Okay? So you're looking at, she is at basically her max of $2,400. So she has $50 to play with outside of what she already budgeted for. So if, you know, she goes over a little, it's okay, right? But now let's look at her actual budget. So look at her budget, and I want you to tell me where she's spending her money. Where's she spending more money? Well, keep in mind, her fixed expenses are not going to change because they're always going to be the same every single month. They're never going to deviate from those specific payment amounts. But you really want to look at her variable and discretionary. Yeah.
It's not hanging out with girlfriends.
Yeah. So look at that. She spent $200 more for shopping.
Well, isn't that a part of paying yourself first?
It is, but that's why we think about a budget. She has to think about this. She has to think, okay, how much money am I really going to spend? She put $480 into, or she wanted to put $480 into her savings and her emergency fund. But guess what? She only put away $150. Okay? She put away $150 because some of that money went to some of these other things that she did. Okay? So she's kind of putting money away, but she's not really meeting her goals. And that's why a budget is very important, and that you don't stray from your budget. Because we look at her entertainment here, and she spent $150, and she said she was going to spend half that. Okay? Her gifts, she increased that by what, $55? Okay? And then $200 on her shopping. And then you look at her utilities, so you know what, maybe she's not turning the lights off in the house. I love using that as an example, and I'll tell you why. I grew up in a house with 6 brothers, okay? And all 6 of my brothers, there was never a light off in the house. Lights were on, TVs were on, you know, you walk in the door, you always think somebody's there. There could be nobody in the house, and everything was on.
Yep.
That's how I grew up, okay? I'll tell you, my house now, a light doesn't go on unless you enter a room. Sometimes we don't even turn it on then because you don't need to. You know, you can open a window or a blind, you know, see that way, okay? So, I mean, you take that and you think about, you know, what are you spending your money on, and then you have, look at her food bill. She must have went out to eat too much this month because she went from $200 to $300, okay? Exactly, because she's young. She doesn't really understand it. Maybe mom and dad have always bought all the food that she needed. She never thought twice about it. And now she's got to really start thinking about what she's spending. Because I'll tell you, if you're spending $300 on one person on food for a month, okay, for one person, you're throwing a lot of that food away, unless most of it's going to you going out to eat. And I always like to use that as an example because you don't want to waste. You just don't want to waste that. And then obviously she's driving in her car too much because she's taking her 80 and she's going to 135. Now, we can look at this and we can kind of look at it in 2 ways. What she's budgeting for in her actual, maybe she needs to adjust it too a little bit. Okay? So maybe what she needs to do is she needs to take a look at this budget. She needs to say, okay, I don't make $2,607 a month. I don't do that, so I can't spend that much. Okay? Because where do you think that money's going? The money's going on a credit card. The rest of that's going on a credit card at a 12, 15, 24% rate. Okay? But maybe she can take this budget and compare the two, right? And you can say, you know what, maybe I need to increase, you know, my gas. Because, you know, this could really be her going to work. She thinks she's only going to spend $80, but guess what? As an example, I go from South Philadelphia to Roxborough daily, and sometimes I'm sitting in traffic for an hour at a minimum. And sometimes I get to work in 20 minutes, depending on how the roads are that day. So, I mean, she may need to adjust it that way. You know, her food budget. You know, we don't know what she's really spending her money on, but, you know, maybe she is going out to eat and she just needs to say, sorry, can't do that today. and start really thinking about that. But then one of the other things that I look at is cell phone, because to me, if you go from $75 to $110 on your cell phone, I mean, you need to relook at your plan and see what you can do. There's ways for her to adjust her budgets where she still kind of stays where she needs to be, but maybe steps back and thinks, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate my cell phone bill. Okay? Maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm spending my money on when it comes to food. Because can I cut it from, $300 maybe to $150? Okay? Maybe my savings, you know what? Maybe I have to decrease that from the $480 to the $150 and make sure that I stick with that though. And I always at least put $150. Okay? Which is important. Okay? I will say I don't think that this is necessarily a realistic budget in a way, because you really have to think there's always going to be other things that come up, especially if you have kids. This is somebody who doesn't, realistically, she has nobody but herself to worry about. Okay? She doesn't have really, she's trying to save for her house, but guess what? She's not going to get to that house if she's not putting more money away. And really, that doesn't seem to me that that's the most important thing for her. Okay? It's all about focusing and really figuring things out. Okay?
She's still rather lucky.
Yeah, she's lucky. She's very, very lucky. You're absolutely right that she's able to bring that amount of money in each month. Yes.
You didn't have medical up there. I guess she didn't have
She may not have insurance.
life
That's just,
insurance or whatever.
yeah, and that may be something she's not taking advantage of at this point. Unfortunately, I don't have that, but that usually automatically comes out of your paycheck each month. So you want to kind of think about that too. Probably what's happening is that's already subtracted from her paycheck. Okay? But you're right, you don't talk about, to me that's part of an emergency fund too, because, God forbid something happens and you hurt yourself and you have to pay an emergency room bill. Okay? I'm sorry? Yeah, somebody else does do it for you. So let's talk about, so we really did talk about, the areas that she did overspend. Yes, I'm sorry. She was a marketing coordinator. So basically what that means in the banking industry is those flyers that you see when you go into a bank, and you see they have like those product flyers that they hand out to you, or the signs on the windows. That's part of what our marketing coordinators do. Is they create that. They create those signs. Okay? They create all of the material that we use to try to bring new business into the bank. Yes? Well, in this instance, it looks like she makes about $30,000 a year. Yeah. I honestly, I have to say to you, I can't be sure as to what they do make. I try to just focus on me when it comes to that. You can't worry about other people.
Well,
yeah.
I was asking
Yeah.
because the way she got her budget and her actual budget.
Yeah.
I was wondering how much she was making to do all this.
Yeah. She's making the $24.50 a month. For her, that's a great salary for anyone.
She overspent though.
But she does overspend. I think we can all agree to the idea that she didn't meet her goals,
Yes.
right? She absolutely didn't meet her goals. And keep in mind, this 2607 too, that 150 that she puts in every month, she could be taking that right out of the savings. So does she have the savings? Okay, I would probably say no. I think you're right. I don't think she can save anything, because the minute she puts it in, she's got to take it out again.
Especially for that entertainment.
Exactly. So when we look at this, what other questions do you have concerning the budget or the idea of a budget?
I was trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting close to retirement.
Congratulations.
And I have a house,
Mm-hmm.
utility bills. I just have a cell phone. I don't have a lot that she had.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have car payment, car insurance, cable. Food I only spend like $100. Entertainment, I don't do no entertainment, just regular TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy any gifts.
Okay.
Shopping, I stop.
Okay.
I'm trying to say, like, I wanna, like, put one side,
Mhm.
like, spend money just for necessities and stuff, and save here, but still pay my, rent, my mortgage and my utility bills.
Okay.
I know, I make, close to $17 an hour.
Okay.
My mortgage is like, $500.
Mhm.
I'm not saving, I'm still not finding a way, I'm saving $25 a week.
Okay.
But that's not enough.
Yeah. So what I would say to you is use this format. Even though you don't have some of those other expenses, use a similar format. So look at your savings, because what's the idea? We want to pay ourselves first, right? Then we want to look at our rent and utilities. So rent is your mortgage,
Right.
okay? So is your mortgage, does that encompass your homeowner's insurance as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to be looking at putting that down first. Okay, you don't have a car payment or insurance, so we can negate that. Do you have internet or cable?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to include that bill, but you do have your cell phone, right?
Yes.
Do you have a house phone?
No.
Okay, so you want to put your cell phone in, and then you want to still look at your variable expenses. So I think what we would add to your variable expenses that she doesn't have here is transportation. So you want to look at transportation expenses. You know, do you have?
That's 20 transfer $24.
Yeah.
That's $24 a week.
Okay. So look at it this way: it's $24 a week. If I remember correctly, and I don't know if this is still the case, is it less expensive, or do you receive a discount if you purchase a monthly TransPass? Can that save you a little bit of money?
I think it's like $2 cheap, $4 cheap.
Okay. I mean, if we're looking at saving about $25 a month, that's, $2 to $4 more you can put away in savings. Okay. I know it's not a whole lot, but you want to look at that.
$150.
Okay.
There's a big risk with that.
I don't know what the risk would be with the
Monthly
TransPass.
as opposed to a weekly.
Yeah.
It's a higher risk of losing the monthly than it is the weekly.
Okay. I mean,
Traveling.
if you need to look at it in that facet, if you think it's something you're going to lose, then yes, you still want to stick with the weekly rather than the monthly.
So
But
actually,
even yes,
the less you have up there, the more you can save.
absolutely. And this is a format that I usually take out this format to any of my clients when I'm sitting with somebody and they're talking more about a budget, and we just kind of look at it together. You sit down, you kind of break it down, you say, is this really something I can do? Is this something that I can't do? I can tell you right now that if you're making, $17 an hour, figure out whatever that would be, monthly, and you can break it down, you're going to be surprised what you're actually able to save. But you also are going to be surprised in saying, you know what, maybe I'm spending way too much money here. Are you going out to eat?
No.
Because the money's got to be going somewhere, right? So you have to really sit down and think, where is it going? Do you currently have a bank account?
Yes.
Okay, who do you bank with?
Citizen and Wells Fargo.
Okay, I can tell you right now, one of the things that you might be looking at, money may be going to service fees or ATM fees. Got to take those into account. They're variable expenses. The more you tap, Mac.
I do run into some overdraft.
I mean, so overdraft fees are $35 a pop. Yeah, so you're looking at, you might be paying a $5 monthly service fee, right? Then you're paying $3 for taking money out of the ATM, right? And then maybe you overdrew your account twice, so that's $70. So that's almost that's about $80, almost $85 that you're spending right there every month just to pay the bank to keep your money. So think about that. Really think about that. Is it worth overdrawing my account today, or can I wait maybe 2 or 3 more days till I get paid? Can I make that happen? Because I'll tell you right now, once you start using that mindset of, I have this budget, you will be surprised you will not be overdrawing your account. Because you'll know everything that you spend. You have a question?
When I was working, we had an option of direct deposit with your paycheck, and then you could have different accounts, like your savings account and your retirement account. So that money, you didn't see it, so it didn't, to me, I didn't see that money. I just went along with what I received in my check. And I
Exactly.
didn't look at that money that was taken out.
Exactly, and that's an option too. Is I always recommend direct deposit anyway. I think if you're going to walk into the bank with a check, I'll tell you right now, a lot of people go to the bank that the check is drawn off of, right?
Yep.
So you go and you cash your check at the bank. If you're not a customer, they're charging you $5
Sure are. Yes, they are.
or $10 to cash a check, right?
Yeah.
So that's already $10 right off the top of your check that you're losing because you're going to cash it. But if you have it automatically deposited to your bank,
Yeah.
or you understand your bank's policy with your payroll check, and you can go in there and make a deposit and stick to a budget, you're not going to need to ever do that again. Okay? And what I always recommend too, and then I'll take your question, is use online banking. So I know a lot of people are still very hesitant with the idea of using online services. But if you use your bank's online banking, a lot of them also give you, and I can tell you it's beneficial, we have this system called FinanceWorks. And what FinanceWorks does, it actually takes all of your spending, so it reads right off of my debit card and it tells me where all my money's being spent. And it'll break it down every single month just like a budget. And I can tell you last month I spent too much money on coffee.
Too much of a security.
I would say,
I guess that.
I would say to you,
I guess
Yes.
I say that because I'm a programmer, so.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, too much of a security risk.
to some they may consider that's a personal, I'm sure that's a personal view, but I will tell you there's a lot of processes in place to avoid your accounts being hacked online. I'm sorry, yes.
For some to work here the last time,
Mhm.
you said you pay yourself first.
Yes.
I have been doing that. I take out like $50 a month and then put in my
Mhm.
savings.
Uh-huh.
I have get Social Security.
Yes.
But I've been doing that at that much. So that's
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody's listening, but since our last class, I'm sorry, your name?
Karen.
Karen has actually been using the idea of paying yourself first, and she's been able to put money away every single month, so congratulations. That's really wonderful. Yes.
I have
Mm-hmm.
life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it now for about going on 5 years. I don't know if you take $14 a month out.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to like $500 now. I don't know if that's a good thing that I'm doing or.
I would say you need to talk, you need to kind of think about, is that something that you feel benefits you? That's not a question I can truly answer. I don't know what your policy is. You may want to talk to maybe an advisor who deals in insurance, and they can kind of go over the policy and make sure that you're in the right product or program for yourself. Mm-hmm. And you can go to your local bank and do that, actually. And usually it's a free service. I'm sorry.
When using a bank, what type of savings account is the best?
So I would, I'm a big advocate on free products. So products and services that have no minimum balance requirements attached to them, especially when you're new in the realm of saving or even having a bank account. So I would look first at, is there a minimum balance on this account? Because guess what? If we're new at saving and we need to tap that savings account, if we fall, say, under a certain dollar denomination, we're going to get feed, and that's what we want to avoid, right? So just as an example, Beneficial, we have a completely free checking account. So we have an account that has no minimum balance requirement. Okay. We also have a savings that's that's similar, no minimum balance requirement.
Do you get free checks?
We do have a product that does offer you free checks. It's called our Start Benefiting.
How much you make to have it?
That's $1,000 minimum or direct deposit. But you have to be over the age of 50 to have that product. If you want another product that offers free checks, there's a minimum of $10,000. And I always say, hey, you know what? Online banking bill pay, it's free. It's complete, it's a free service, you don't pay for anything, and it's just like writing a check. So that's really what I am trying to educate my clientele on now. Is, checks are $20, $30 a pop for a box. depending on what you write every month, you can go into bill pay, schedule your payments just like you're writing a check, and they basically pay for you every month. And then you're not worried about. You'd be surprised, but you really are paying your own bills because you're the one paying it. They're just sending it out for you. Oh, you can still have the paper bill. It's not saying for you to go electronic when it comes to bills. It's just a matter of you, instead of having that check that you're writing out and you're putting it in the envelope, you can just write paid. This is what I do. I write paid on my bill, and I put the amount of money I pay out, and then I put the date that it's going to come out of my account. And then I put it with my bills in my little filing cabinet at home. And to me, it's kind of, I mean, I'm younger. It was an easier transition for me because I'm very technologically savvy when it comes to that because I have to be, and I work for the bank. So if I don't use it, how can I explain it to everybody? I look at that as well, yes. Like an automatic withdrawal, like an auto payment?
No, like you're talking about when they schedule a payment.
Mm-hmm.
Do they make a plan on your account? I don't know.
So with the bill pay system, you can do one of two things, and this is generally bank-wide for any bank that you go to. You can either schedule this to where you can change the amount every single month and send the payment out yourself whenever you want. So you can schedule it out, 2-3 weeks a month ahead. Or you can have it automatically taken from your account every month to where you say, okay, I'm going to pay PICO $60 a month. And, I know my bill's not necessarily 60, but some months it's over 60, so
I know.
I'll do that.
Do they let you know?
Mm-hmm. They send you an email.
Oh, okay.
So they send you an email saying, okay, you're I always have my electric, my gas, and I have my water bill automatically withdrawn every single month, and my mortgage. So I get an email and it says, okay, here's the bills that are coming out of your account today, and it gives you a breakdown, and then it automatically sends them out for you. Honestly, some people say it is easier to write a check. I will say to you, but then you have that cost associated with it. So if we're really talking about budget, every time you're writing a check, I mean, you're out of checks, you're paying $30 for a box of checks. Yeah.
When you buy a box of checks for $30, they give you like 100 or something.
You'd be surprised. We have a lot of older clientele who go through 100 checks in a month and a half because they still write checks for everything. And I always try to just explain that a bill pay, it's good to have a box just in case you need it.
So I mean, you only just got to
But-
pay electric, gas, and maybe your mortgage. You're not going to be writing that in a check.
Oh, I mean, you got to take into account. I'm also, I'm 33 years old. I own my own house. I have all these other expenses that, every single month. So I have my cable, I have my internet, I have my telephone bill, I have my, my mortgage, my insurance, I have my car payment that comes out every single month. So I have probably about 7 to 10 bills a month, student loans that I pay. So yeah, I think I would generally probably write between 7 to 10 checks a month. And I just have it automatically coming out instead. Yes?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing online payments, I know some various places where you want to do your online payments, they fall on different dates.
Yes.
Is there a way that a person can call the people, those particular people that take
Yeah.
out your money and schedule it so that it happens on
Absolutely.
on a particular day rather than going with what they tell you?
Yeah, so that's actually, you bring up a great question. That's actually a little secret that a lot of companies don't make you aware of. So, your car payment comes out, say, on the 15th of the month, but you're not going to pay till the 1st because you can't pay till the 1st. Okay? You can call them, and 99.9% of the time, they will adjust your pay date in accordance. And that's car payment. I've done that for customers with, mortgage, and it's just a date modification. So then you're not feed.
Yeah, I did
That's,
that.
what is that
Yeah,
called?
credit card companies.
Say that again?
You
It's
got-
called
So
what?
it's basically a modification of your payment cycle.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can
That's
always
cool.
just say, I mean, I've called and I've said, you know, I'm looking to change the date for my customers, you know, my client's loan payment. Most banks will do it for you. I can tell you, I've done it myself with my car payment because, you know, I like to pay my car payment with my mortgage. So anyway, yes.
Yeah, I was saying, like he was saying,
Yeah.
that happened to me a couple of times, but you have to let the bank know 2 or 3 days ahead of time. If you don't let them know ahead of time, they might not come out, have bounce check,
Yeah.
and charge, you know.
Well, I will tell you that, say, you know, your payment is on the 15th and you know for a fact you can't pay it on the 1st, you can have it always to come out on the 1st and then they won't fee you. But you have to call them. I would give them like 2 months notice, just so then you can, you know, make sure that you get on that cycle. If there's any errors or mistakes, you can work through that process of getting it fixed. But usually you can have it changed. You have a question?
Yeah, that would work if you're getting a weekly or a bi-weekly check, but if you're on disability, like I'm on SSDI,
Mhm.
I get paid once a month. I get
Exactly.
paid the second Wednesday of the
Yep.
month. My rent is due on the 1st.
Exactly.
And-
But you could even talk to, so your rent's due on the 1st, so you have a leasing company. So you go through, call the leasing company and ask them. Oh, so you've already, so
Yeah.
some will, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you everybody will do it.
$50
Yeah, but some of them will be
Yeah.
okay with you saying, okay, I understand your situation. We can absolutely make that happen. Because I changed my mortgage payment. My mortgage payment was coming out on the 17th of the month, which to me was insane. I had I like it to come out on the 1st because I don't think, you know, I feel like the full month is in my head, so I think, you know, a full month I can pay my mortgage and I have 30 days to worry about it next month. You know? So that's what I do. It doesn't, you're right, it doesn't work all the time. It doesn't, but I always say there's no harm because they would prefer you to pay your bill on time because guess what? You don't pay it on time, there's a better chance of you defaulting on that payment or that loan. So they would really prefer you to try to work with them.
They've
Exactly.
rearranged my payments to the 15th,
Yeah.
but they're like, it's a money
It is.
economics because
You're right.
they get $50.
Sometimes they
When it's
don't
late.
because they're not always going like it. I can tell you let's use Capital One as an example. I had a client who had a Capital One payment. They readjusted it so they're not going to get a late fee anymore, but their payment now, because they explained their situation, they had, you know, they lost their job, so they were used to paying their bills because they were getting paid bi-weekly. Now they're getting once a month, but they were used to. They were used to paying their bills regularly, and they weren't able to. So we called them, we had their payment changed, and we did an automatic withdrawal, so now it's coming out every month. But they were saying that, okay, we'll modify the payment date, and you're not going to receive the late fee any longer. Because we understand the situation, everyone has their hardships, we'll work with you, not against you. And a lot of companies will do that now because they don't want you to default on your loan or your payment. Because you default, I mean, that's something they have to write off at the end of the year. And you know, you may think, you know, $15 or I'm sorry, $500 may not be a lot if that's what your, you know, credit card bill is. But guess what? You have, you know, $1,500 to $2,500 credit card bills that you're writing off at the end of the year. That adds up. They don't want to have to do that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. My question to you,
Mm-hmm.
hypothetical, in terms of the banking finance industry and your criteria for the type of people they employ.
Okay.
Today,
Mm-hmm.
God forbid, but today, if something would happen and you would lose vision or a significant amount of vision, what would happen to your job?
I don't think anything, honestly. I mean, what they would do is they would look at working with you, not against you. So the goal would be, okay, what do you need to get your job done to your specifications, to bank standards? So they would look at technology and try to help
If I
you.
were you, I would look into it. Because for the longest time, even if, well, maybe things have changed,
Okay.
but still, it's a problem. As I know,
Okay.
so I can take my word for it.
Okay.
Because I'm legally blind.
Okay.
banks in the financial industry wouldn't hire me because they're afraid I would miscount money. Because
I
don't
can't,
have-
you know, I work at Beneficial Bank and I can only speak for Beneficial Bank, and I can tell you that we would not discriminate anyone based on,
Geez,
Yeah.
they always tell you that.
So.
Official.
It depends on the position.
That's another story.
Because as a
But
teller,
no, I understand your hardship and I do understand your,
Take my word for it.
okay. So we'll go, does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Well, yes.
Yeah, coming back, like the young lady was saying, like, you know, she gets, like I get paid like on the third. And, do your, I was just asking about your bank. I had post-dated a check from like RG&E and Electric. And, I had post-dated the check for, let's say, the third, but they got it on the first. They went in my account. You got the money and the check both bounced.
Yep.
They doesn't wait right there.
And they legally don't have to any longer.
I didn't know
There's
that.
your, actually post-dating a check is illegal.
oh, it is.
It's
Yeah,
illegal, yeah.
I mean, that's what
They
you-
basically,
you
what
done.
my rule of thumb is unless you have the money in your account, don't pay the bill.
But I got
Because if
posted.
Pico comes through, and we're just gonna use this as an example. So Pico comes through and they actually go and deposit your check into their bank, right? So they're taking your check and they're also depositing probably 15 to 20,000 more checks, right? On top of yours. They're not looking at the date. They're just looking that they got a check.
Yep.
And I will tell you, everything's electronic, so it's all about computers. So there's not somebody going through those checks and making sure the dates are correct. They're just sending them through a system and they're all getting paid.
Yeah, cost me $35.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you never want to post date. I would say to you, let it be late and get a a $5 to $10 fee, then a $35 fee. Yes.
There are a lot of those businesses popping up now where people don't like going to banks, but
Yeah.
they send you a card and you can load your money into that
Yep.
card to avoid the fees. Would you recommend that?
I would say, you know what, I look at it and say to everyone, you have to do what's best for you. If you think that it's a good idea, then by all means, that's something that you need to do. Because there are some people who can't bank with a standard institution due to, a significant situation in their life. Or maybe they owe the banks money and they're not able to open an account. So maybe that may be a reason why somebody does it. I would say to you honestly, you do what's best for you, but also do your research. Do your research. Look up, before you even go into a bank or before you do it, compare. This is what my current bank does. This is, this bank that I'm looking at. Who is better? Do I want to do an online service? Let's think about this a little bit. Go online. That's why we have the web now. You can go in and do research. I always tell people, even when you're going for a job, do your research on the company. Go ahead and Google search them, figure out what they're all about, add that to your resume, have a talking point about why you're happy to be where you are. And one of my favorite questions to ask would be, what do you know about me? What do you know about our bank? So do your homework. That's why you got a website to look at it. And sir, I'm sorry, you had a question?
Yeah. When you were talking about the bills and writing checks, are you saying that even though you mentioned it's illegal to post date check, but you submit a check for a company to get paid, the bank will pay that company anyway, whether you have the money or not in there?
Not necessarily, no. It depends on what you have, what type of products or services you have with your institution. They may not
Sometimes
pay.
they'll do that.
If you have the money in the account, they'll pay it.
No, I'm saying
But if
even
you
if
don't-
you don't have the money.
It depends. It depends on the bank. Some banks will, some banks won't. Yeah.
If I could just offer a suggestion with that, I used to do that, try to post date things, and then I ended up getting more overdraft fees because of it. So I stopped doing it, and that's why I asked them the question of changing the dates of the days that the bills are due, because a lot of places will work with you and change the date that the billing cycle is made on, so that they know. So you just make sure you schedule the bill to be on a date that you get paid. so that you don't fall into that trap of post-dating a check and having it bounce anyway.
Yes.
Listen, if you all want money,
Mm-hmm.
how long, will you always want the money, or is it a certain amount?
It's something, so banks use a system called check systems or eFunds, and it's a bank-wide network that they report if you owe, like a Citizen, say you owe Citizens Bank money, Citizens will then report to this company, and I would say, I don't know a bank now that doesn't use it. So really, if you go to Citizens and you try to go to TD and open an account, it's going to say that they may make exceptions, or they'll ask you about it. But generally, they'll ask you to pay it off first. And there is no real rhyme or reason as to how long it stays on there. Usually it's on there for at least 7 to 11 years.
I got a question about. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I had Citizens before, and when I left Citizens to go to a different banking company, they tacked on a fee to my account, which I had already closed, and they continued to tack on fees onto that. They had gotten sued a few years back because of that practice. Now, I had already closed the account, and I'm with another company now. That got reported to my
what I would say to you, and just not to,
but they
just to
even
kind of
sent
stop
me
you
a
there.
check. They even sent me a check.
Yeah,
And
so
I cashed it.
the error may have been corrected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what I would probably say to you is if you still have that there, and there's no harm in you calling Citizens and just asking them, because if that was an error, they should fix it,
Okay.
and they will. If they really do report it as an error, they'll fix it for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Somebody wanted me, well, my ex wanted me to help her to get on an account because her credit was bad. Now, we split up. So, she owed the bank money, but she's no longer with the bank.
Okay.
But they're sending me the bill.
Because you're on the account. That's why.
Yeah,
So it's a
but-
joint account. So it doesn't matter if it was hers. If you're on the account, you're legally bound to pay back too, because you're a joint owner.
Yeah. I know. I told her, I said, but I'm no longer with that account though. I left
So
that
are you
bank-
on the account any longer?
I left the bank a long time ago,
But
but
you're-
she
you're-
was still on the bank.
No, I understand, but you're probably still on her account. You were never taken off her account. That's why they would report you.
Well, this is observed. I can't afford that.
What I would say is, contact your institution and talk to them about it. But you're probably on the account, and that's probably why.
That's what happens
even to
when you
clear
co-sign.
my name, I got to pay that bill.
Yes, because you went into a contract and opened that account with your partner at the time. Yes. So that's why you sign those signature cards. Because they're all, but it's always the same. When you're on a joint account, that's basically, you're just as responsible as the person who's first on the account.
Let me ask you this question. Suppose I get sick.
Yes.
I can put anybody on my account to go into it if I couldn't go for insurance. What would they need to
Power of attorney. Power of attorney. So then they're not legally responsible for the account. They're legally responsible to use that account for your intended purpose. If you add them as a joint owner, it's basically like it's their money and they can do whatever they want. Power of attorney legally makes them bound and responsible to use any funds in that account for your benefit.
Was the IRA
IRA.
account include interest?
Yes.
How much?
It depends. Every bank is different. I will say to you that an IRA generally will give you a little bit more interest than a regular savings account because you can't touch the money
Right.
for a significant period of time.
Can you put as
No, there's annual limits. So like I think this year you can only put a total of 7,200 in an IRA. Like there's yearly limits, it changes every year. I think 7,200 for 2 people. Like if you have 2 people in the IRA, it's for a family. It's 5,600 for an individual IRA. But you just have to make sure once you hit that 56, you can't contribute anymore. So they'll penalize you for it.
56 in there one time.
You can put it all in one time.
Well, my question
Sure.
is, direct deposits. I know they say for a direct deposit to go into effect, it takes what, about 2 paychecks, 2 checks or something? Okay, so what happens when you change your bank?
You'll get a paper check for probably 1 paycheck
You'll get a paper check from there?
from your company. Yeah. So like
From-
if it's SSI,
Yeah.
you'll get a paper check in the mail still too. But usually if you catch it early enough in the month, so say you make your change before you close your account, we always say don't close your account until you know it comes into the new one. But if we catch it early enough, you'll have it the very next month. They're really, really good with that. They've always been very good.
The IRA account,
Mhm.
you have to put money in there every month.
No. No, you're not required to. In the back?
Yes, ask the young lady question over there, because I had a problem with it. And I closed one bank because so many checks were bouncing. And they let each bank know. So, it was that I couldn't open up a savings account. So now I have 2 checking accounts.
Okay.
Some banks may not open up a savings account, but they'll let you open up.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
checking.
it really does depend. Some will let you open a checking, some won't let you open a checking because you bounce checks. They may let you open a savings. I mean, there's no harm in asking. You know, people will work with you. Because you have to keep in mind, your bread and butter is their bread and butter, right? Because when you're in the banking industry, you're looking at, you need to bring new customers into the bank.
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
They really doesn't charge you, you get the right thing, like, if you got to deposit like 1 check, like I use Citizen, if I you deposit 1 check in there, it doesn't charge you anything, which I get a monthly check.
See, that's great. And there's a lot of banks that have programs like that. It's just like I said, a matter of doing research. Like looking up online. You have a question?
Not yet.
You're good? Okay. Well, okay, do you have another question?
No, I know you're
Okay.
pressed for time. I'm sorry.
Well, no, just wanted to see if anybody else has any other questions, and then we can wrap up. Go ahead.
My question would be, based on this money management document we gave us, what happens in the event that your income doesn't reach to the point of what you're talking about on paper? What happens in the event of a budget, trying to have a budget when you don't have the money? Say for instance, the average person that's on regular SSI, they get like
Yeah.
seven something a month. All right, with all these nice ideas about what you can do on paper, but in a realistic, this don't apply. It don't apply because you don't have the money.
I would say what you have to look at is the reason we use that budget is because it's all about where can you cut corners. It's to help you figure out where you can cut corners to stay within that limit every single month. So you know what? This person's saying she's going to put, $480 away a month. I'll tell you right now, the last time I put $480 away a month, I think it might have been, 3 years ago. But, you have to look at where can I cut costs. Right there I would cut a little bit off the top there to offset some of my expenses elsewhere because I was working in Center City before, so I would walk to work every day. Now I drive to work every day, so my gas, I had a car that just sat there, 5 days a week, and now my car comes with me every single day. So, yes.
In reference to what you just said, were you working in the same field?
I just moved from one office to another.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's not that I'm debating with you.
Oh no, I understand.
It's just the idea that you're representing a bank, institution that saves money for people, loans money to certain people that qualify. But some of I understand somewhat of the purpose of you being here today, but for a lot of us, I think, I'll speak for myself, money-wise, I have never been a good money manager in the first place.
But that's why we're doing this, to help you at least get that, at least get the roadblocks, or not the roadblocks, what do I say? You want to get that, that foundation to start understanding and doing it. I mean, that's why I do this. I didn't learn how to save till I was in my mid to late 20s. I mean, I was in the same position you're saying you're in now. I didn't know this. I had to learn this on my own. And honestly, I learned a lot of this through doing things like this. Teaching these classes. Like, I'll tell you right now, I use that budget. I use it because you know what? It's
Maybe
easy.
you can afford it.
No, and it's not. It has nothing to do with whether you can afford it or not. It just helps me understand what I'm spending. Even if I know I'm overextending myself one month, it gives me a goal. So I have this and say, this is my goal. Even if I don't meet that goal, this is my goal that I want to hit at the end of the month. You know what? You're always going to have those expenses that are going to come up, and you're going to have to spend an extra $50 to $100 doing whatever it may be. Medical bills or whatever it might be. But this is really just to kind of say, okay, here's where I can start. Here's my goal. Am I going to be able to meet it? But if I'm not, then now I can sit there and say, here's why I didn't meet it, because now you can break everything down. And you can say, okay, well, you know what, my cable bill is $130 a month. Do I really need, HBO and Showtime and whatever it might be? Can I get rid of that? Do I even need cable? Because there's so many other alternatives to cable nowadays, right? So, Roku, you have the smart TVs, you have Amazon, you have Hulu, you can really see anything you want on those and pay like a fraction, like $8 a month for Hulu. I mean, you just I'm just using that as an example, but just a matter of, do you need everything that you have? And it kind of helps you think about that. Because I will tell you right now, it helped me think about, do I need those credit cards? Do I need to use those credit cards every single month? Do I still even need them? Because guess what? That's 11-12% that I pay on top of whatever else it
You know what I
is.
do with my credit cards? I will only spend a certain amount of the amount that I can pay.
Exactly. And some do that. Some don't have a luxury. I put myself into a situation where I had an emergency where I had to max my credit card out. But I'm just saying to you that it's just the foundation for you to set up yourself for success. Whether it be that you can do it or you can't. If it works, it doesn't work. You can even go online and look at examples of budgets. Maybe find something else that works for you. But you know what? I understand your scenario. I understand your situation. And honestly, you're right. It's not easy and it's not difficult. And it does look really unrealistic. But it's just a matter of taking it and saying, okay, let me see what I do really spend. What do I spend? What do I spend? Can I cut anything out? Obviously, you can't cut out food. You can't cut out warmth. You can't cut out a roof over your head. But, maybe you can cut out, like if you have a car and you can't afford the car anymore, maybe we can cut the car out. Maybe we can lower our cable payment. Maybe we can take our cell phone and put ourselves on a plan. I know, like even utilities, they do a budget program. So maybe you need to look at the budget program for utilities to help you out a little bit. Maybe I am saving or trying to save, $150 a month, and I can't do that right now. So let's not even look at that, and let's plan on adding that in a few months down the line. Just look at it. That's all. Just to help give you the tools to set yourself up for success. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It was great talking to you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, is this the last class, or are you guys?
I believe this is the last class, yes. So I think we can, because I think we were still talking about adding another class.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to actually have a paper.
Perfect.
So everyone who is from the math class, please, if you want to work on your typing, that is the first day, but if you need someone to listen to typing. TNS 2, if you want to work on your typing in a little bit, you can stay in here. We're not going to go back to the classroom one at this point. So if you just want to kind of have it here. And you have been set some additional jobs, TNS 2 students. So please look at those. We don't just send them for the heck of it. And Sian and I will come around and help you with applying with cover letters and all of that. Oh, and you can
Yes.
go on break now till 11:15.
Are we, is TNS2 staying in here?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna stay in here.
Just as long as Chris knows that the presentation is over, I don't see why it should be a problem. Who do we have next?
So,
Wade?
you never got it?
Yeah, I believe Wade is there. Is he in here? If not, let Wade know.
Just see before you
Oh, sure.
Well, yeah. No, this week, you wanna have that before Friday. It's just a heads that you're gonna get started with other people who have
Wow.